Good morning, everybody. So in this video, I'm going to talk about, which you can't express it at all. You can only talk around it, but I'm gonna try anyway.
Now here are the stages to truth realization. At first stage, you're a little boy discovering that you have a penis. At second stage, you discover that you could fab and ejaculate. At third stage, you discover that you could fuck a woman or two or three. At fourth stage, you discover that you could fuck the entire universe while the universe fucks you. At fifth stage, the universe fucks itself and you completely vanish. There's another stage beyond it that isn't a stage at all. It's the beyond, after you transcend the transcendence.
See, throughout life, we go through different kinds of programs. First, you have the self program, the CEO program, the no-fat program, the science program, the arch program, the bodybuilding program, the pickup program, the atheism program, the religious program, and finally, you're like, oh, those things didn't satisfy me. You arrive at the program of spirituality. The meta program, the mother of all programs. Spirituality is the program that dissolves all the other programs. But see, spirituality itself is just another game, another program, that after you accumulated all the fruits on it, after you beat the entire game, the game itself must self-destruct. See, that's one of the biggest blind spots, especially for very serious seekers. You might have halos on your head or counted beads, wear robes, oozing with Kundalini juice. But see, that might be what's keeping you from realizing your true nature. It doesn't take 20, 40, or 5 lifetimes to recognize your true nature. That's absurd. That's because spirituality itself becomes another condition, another blind spot that people tend to miss. Maybe they haven't let go of their realizations and realized that nirvana is samkara. Maybe they're still talking about their mystical experiences or psychedelic trip that happened 5 years ago. Where is it? Show me your mystical state right now. Show me your truth about reality. Where is it?
Don't give up the search too early because there's a quantum difference between your present moment before and after enlightenment. See, in Zen, tell you to watch the stink of your awakening and deepening unfoldment continues. See, the first reaction from the character after the Big Bang was, this thing has nothing to do with sutras or traditions or paths or everything that I've read or experienced up to that point. So the universe is neither and both spiritual nor mental. Life is both eternal and finite, neither empty nor not empty. Neither the one nor the many. The absolute is the merging and the transcendence of being and non-being. So you want to find the middle way by going beyond the eternalism of Hinduism and the emptiness of Buddhism. You don't want to crave existence, neither do you want to crave non-existence. See, a good representation of the awakened state is like an animal documentary, Planet Earth or Our Planet, where all organisms survive through interdependency without a central agent or a controller. It's more like that than fractal DMT trip animations or chakras you ejaculating out of your spine, angels or gods. But there's also that too, because it includes everything. See, every event and phenomenon is dependent on webs and webs of conditions from the future to the past. That arises, this also rises. This ceases, that also ceases. So you dissolve the separate self with awareness. And after that, you see that even awareness is part of this process of causes and conditions and lacks an inherent existence. But see, to experience dependent origination, you have to first realize no self, both the small s and the big S. It's when you transcend both the individual and the universal mind. It's like smashing the Godhead into infinite numbers of pieces of universes, each connecting to itself and to all the other universes. But you can put them back into one universal mind again, or experience both flavors of realization simultaneously. Dependent origination is the Buddha mind. If you don't perceive dependent origination, you don't perceive the Dharma. But even the Buddha said the Dharma is empty. So letting go of your realizations and mystical experiences only allow you to experience them even deeper. Just like after you learn a piece of music, when it's absorbed in the cellular level, you don't think about it, you don't even read the sheet music. So the lived experience of dependent origination is bouncy, spontaneous, dynamic, and creative. It's definitely an upgrade.
You see no difference at all between ego and non-ego, between Nirvana and Samkara. It's just like looking at a nature documentary. Be like, you watch the way the animals move, and you're like, that's how I'm moving too. You watch how the wind blows the trees and how the flowers bloom. You're like, I'm in the same force of nature as all that, right? That's why I think the Buddha would feel more like a monkey than a god or a human. It would feel like some kind of entity that is neither and both god, monkey, and human.
Yeah.
It's almost like your movement is so natural, you feel like a monkey, like an animal. But then the consciousness that's been expressed is so vast and so intelligent, it feels like it's from outer space. One of the Brahmins was challenging Buddha, asking a straight question. He's like, hey, bro, are you man or God? And the Buddha said, neither. I'm neither man or God. I'm awake.
Yeah.
Adi Ashante warned people not to get stuck in enlightenment. Once you get woke, move on with your life. But he still talks about spirituality 24/7. Still plays the role of a teacher. But there's a difference between speaking about it from the outside after you use spirituality as a set of tools to ejaculate yourself out of the matrix versus still being stuck in the matrix of spirituality and then hijacking your realizations to indeed, spirituality is just a set of tools, very useful fabrication, beautiful ones at some point in your life. But in the ultimate unity, there's absolutely no distinction between what's inside the matrix and what's outside of it. See, reality is neither predetermined nor completely random. It's more like a process of co-arising and co-creation through the causal conditions of the whole universe. Since nothing is solid, there are no nodes, only the links. But on the ultimate level, even the links are empty, because space and time also don't exist, apart from the causes and conditions at the relative level. And without time and cause and effect, the reality is a process of spontaneity and simultaneity. So no word in the dictionary has any meaning apart from the definition of all the other words. An apple is empty and non-existent apart from the taste of sweetness, the color red, the skin, your taste buds, and the apple tree. Quote unquote, having forgotten ourselves, who are enlightened by all things, we realize the interdependency which is the root of life. As we eat and chew a piece of toast, we connect with the grain, the cells, the atoms, the green shoots, the earth, the sun, the rain, the appreciation of all the people who made that piece of toast possible. When we see the blade of grass sway in the breeze, we are swayed with it as it. So what your reality is an endless Russian doll, strange looping from smaller than an atom to the whole universe. Expansion is contraction. The unconsciousness of succession gives rise to infinite consciousness and vice versa. Which the quote-unquote you only exists right here, right now, in this moment because of this video. Instead of a head, what I am is the open space that is the entire world. But I don't have a head, so you can have a head, and vice versa. My head is only inside your empty space. So my favorite quote when I was suffering in my philosophy phase 10 years ago was, "What cannot be speak of must be passed over in silence," by Ludwig Wittgenstein, the mathematician and logician philosopher who considered to be the greatest thinker of the 21st century. He's almost a mystic.
He's on the verge of enlightenment. He's playing with his mind and brain with logic so much that any moment he could just completely bust through it. So the Tractatus is basically the only book that he published. His aim and goal of this book is to answer and demolish all philosophical debates, arguments, statements, discourses in the last thousands of years since Plato. And how is he going to go about doing that? So he wrote this little book, a tiny little manual called the Tractatus. It's a collection of axioms. And it's almost like a haiku or a Zen koans. It's like the quantum physics or the string theory of philosophy.
See, every sentence eats away the previous one, and each sentence eats itself away. He's trying to reach emptiness through pure logic. But you cannot think your way to enlightenment. He's saying that all the philosophers from before cannot get to the bottom of truth and reality. Why? Because they're using language and mind to understand the mind. The only way to understand the mind is to transcend it. The last sentence renders this entire book void. And this book renders the entire paradigm of philosophy void. Buddha was gonna give like the best sermon in the world, like one of his last sermons. All thousands of people trying to receive his blessing, right? Trying to learn the Dharma of all Dharmas. And then the Buddha, he just took out flowers, and he just goes like this. He just took out the flower, he just held it. And there's only one person in the entire stadium that truly knew what he was talking about. And he just nodded at the Buddha, and the Buddha nodded at him. And that was it. So at a certain point in your journey, you're going to lose all sense of agency, and the personal will will be replaced by the universal will. But they're actually the same because the part contains the whole and vice versa. Ta-da!
就是我们这间店呢，是1959年开始的，然后我们现在已经是第3代了，是日本那边过来的。然后我们的灯笼啊，是倒挂着的灯笼。
Happy birthday!
See, when you untie the knot of perception and lose the center point, the doer, controller, along with the seer, hearer, thinker, perceiver, knower, will also vanish. It's extremely empowering and liberating. Even imperfection is perfect. See, life goes on unfolding just like before. But without the doer filtering everything and slowing everything down, everything becomes effortless and efficient. Just like how without the seer and the hearer, everything is perceived simultaneously, and there's no more delay between the hearer and the sound. Sounds just share themselves. Feels like you, quote-unquote separate self, cannot think a thought or even make a decision. But every thought and movement is the total exertion, interpenetration, and the activity of the entire universe. See, how can a separate self does or think anything at all if it cannot even be located? There was a study done by neuroscientists where they asked participants to push a button whenever they feel inclined to do so. But when they look at their MRI machine, the neurocircuitry of the signal of the intention of pushing the button already started at the subconscious level before they consciously decided to do it. I don't know the legitimacy of the study, but for you materialistic cunts, you can actually experience this in real time once you abide in the still point of true nature, the fill in the blank that manifests all of existence. Shinzen Yang calls it dancing at the source, abiding in the metaphorical black hole, singularity outside space and time, participating in the pure flow of the source. But at the final unity, source is appearance. Since there's no distinction between background and foreground, the unmanifested and the manifested, there's only the fill in the blank, and there is nothing and nowhere to abide in.
So it's really like, it's a really, really white place. Seriously like that, and
打开了，对，就打开，因为就是我现在感觉不是眼睛在看，不是耳朵在听。
没有打开的话，就是一条线。
对，没打开就是你在里面，你人在里面，这样在看，对。打开以后，你就不是你在看，就是整好像是。
那打开到底好不好？
While lifting, the Mitsu doesn't get tired because the entire world is your body, and every rep feels like every part of the cosmos is working together, flexing itself to move the weight. This notion of the whole world being the body, some tradition refers to this process of dependent origination as the boundless Dharma body. I call it the cosmic octopus. Why isn't it the Dharma mind? Because the magical tapestry of this realization is not mental or conceptual, but actual, embodied, and visceral. When eating is the universe eating, when shitting is the universe shitting. Every note from this cosmic symphony, from the Big Bang to the Big Crunch, is perfectly in tune to make every breath and every sensation precisely the way it is, and all interplays are in perfect harmony. The words like should haves, would haves, could haves are completely erased from your mental landscape because even the imperfections are perfect. While turning the head or lifting your arms, you can actually perceive the intention and thoughts preceding the movements, and they're arising and vanishing all on their own volition, and they're distinguishable from, say, the forming of the clouds, the movement of other people, birds flying, wind blowing, sounds of traffic, cars driving. And none of these phenomenons or objects has an inherent existence apart from the relations. As an exercise, try to do anything intentionally. Just try. You'll see that you can't make anything happen that isn't already happening on its own. Any sense of a you controlling nature's innate intelligence is like believing in Santa Claus. Even the thought, the feeling of quote-unquote I am in control is an afterthought, a conceptual layover that is also happening by itself. Now, this is not a statement about free will versus determinism, because that's just an idea that belongs to the dualistic mind. If you still argue about free will versus determinism, you're not woke, bro. Because the universe doesn't give a fuck.
有分豚骨汤底跟鸡汤底，原味的话呢就是鸡汤底，然后有豚骨的话呢是我们就20个小时亲自熬的。这次要吃口红，口红的话是我们自己炒的辣椒，非常香，它是麻辣的口味。但是有吃辣的话，它的辣度是非常 OK 的。这个就是我们的主打，就是只要有消费拉面、咖喱饭都是免费。
他们的主打是 curry。
As an exercise, sit down and watch breath, thoughts, or scan the body, and you see how all those sensations are not just aware of themselves, but happening on their own is the doing of the universe. Perceive the intention of paying attention or direct attention to anything at all is happening on its own is the doing of the universe. See if the awareness of that is happening on its own is the doing of the entire universe. So you Vipassanalize not just the Vipassanalizer, but the Vipassanalizing. You sneak up on any cluster of sensation that feels like it's quote-unquote in control of another cluster, then you sneak up on that, which is doing the sneaking and on and on and on. You keep going meta until the circuit closes on itself and there's no more duality between the object and the subject, and doer and the doing.
Yeah,
非常
like
然后就很多
Colorado
空间非常大，
打开之前
marijuana,
会经
right?
历很多
They're also the first
非常
state
可
to
怕，
be
这是死
criminalized
亡。
shrooms.
那为什么要我？
So that's basically the
那我
first step to
有
legalizing
必要吗？就
decriminalizing.
在死的那一刻，
And then
对
next step，is
死的那一刻你就会感受到这个。
那你现在的目标是？
没有目标。
See, if everything is happening by itself, then nothing is happening by itself. This whole notion of no doership, along with everything's consciousness, awareness of awareness, is to be absorbed so completely that you transcend it. And this leads me to the Heart Sutra. This is the sutra that says emptiness is form and form is emptiness. It's like the Tractatus of Wittgenstein, but for spirituality. It's the perfect sutta that renders all the previous suttas empty. This is where you totally realize that emptiness is also empty. Form is also form. To sum up the Heart Sutra, there is no body, there is no mind, there's no brain, there's no consciousness, there's no awareness, there's no world, there's no self, there's no free will. But at the same time, there is a body, there is a mind, there is a brain, there is consciousness, there is awareness, there is the world, there is the self, and there is free will. See, in true unity, you can experience both sides of these extremes simultaneously as one or neither. That's why to truly realize something, you have to realize what you're not. Opposite sides of the extreme gives rise to each other, are co-created, and they cancel each other out.
I was in Oregon, and I was one of the followers of Osho. Maybe I was a factory worker because I'm obsessed with Nike this lifetime. I was perceiving myself in my past life. I was not asleep. I still had a sense I was in my bed, but my consciousness was there. Literally, I felt like I was physically there. And then I was looking at Osho, and he was just like kind of like sitting there doing his Osho thing. He wasn't even speaking. He was just silent. But everyone else is like clapping and worshiping like a god, right? And I was one of the people, but I didn't worship him like a god. I was just looking at him in the eye, and he looked at me. And I was like, that's me, and I'm him. And looking into his eyes, like looking at zero. You see nothing, but look through it, you see the whole world. There's nothing inside this man. This man is a completely empty house. He is the most ordinary man, the most magnificent but ordinary man in the entire crowd. But everyone else was treating him like he was some kind of a god. People project all kinds of stuff on him. And then I was like, I feel so sad because I was like, I knew what you're trying to do. Then our eyes just merged and I went to this like fucking DMT trip. And then I was coming in and out of every single enlightened being in the history of the planet.